Okay, now that we've given it a few minutes, let's get started. Thanks for being with me. This is Michael Nelson, the Cogent Coach, and the topic of this webinar is funnels, but not very specifically how to do X, Y, and Z so that the outcome of alpha happens. Instead, what we're going to look at is really from a high level and then get lower and lower so that we understand the purpose of a funnel, what tools go in a funnel, what the flow is, and then what a funnel looks like. And then at the end, I'll field some of your questions. So hopefully it'll be around 30, 45 minutes. And I'll make a replay available in case you missed something that you wanted to take notes on. You can catch it up later. So what is a funnel and why do I need one? As I said, I'm Michael Nelson, the Cogent Coach, and I've been an entrepreneur, small business owner for over 25 years. The businesses that I've worked in generally are small businesses, with the exception of the Marine Corps, which is obviously a little bit larger. I've got 20 plus years internet marketing experience. I built my first website by hand in 1996. And that's the year I also put together my first newsletter. So I was building lists back then already. I'm also a strategy consultant and work with the government and businesses on making their businesses better and understanding how to reach their goals. I'm a former Marine. I was a KC-130 pilot. I worked in logistics as well, and I served on the staff of the Commandant of the Marine Corps. And then after that, I was also a consultant for the Executive Office of the President. So I've worked in small businesses quite a bit, but also in larger organizations. And I think that helps perspective-wise understand what can be done and the level of effort that should go into something to produce results. So what the Cuss is a funnel. Simply put, it's how you sell. And if you haven't seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, a Wes Anderson movie, and a book by Roald Dahl, that's where the what the Cuss is a funnel is from. Fantastic if you haven't seen it, by the way. So simply put, it's how you sell. Your funnel is nothing more than the process, the tools, the flow that folks go through on their way to becoming your customer. So it's not something that you're trying to describe, but rather it's that entire process that you put together. And everyone's funnels are different and they're all customized to their business. So there's no one specific funnel that you go to Kmart and pick up a funnel. You build your own and it's very specific to you and your business. So again, it's the flow that people take to become your customer. And if you put it that way, I think it becomes much simpler than the approach that a lot of people take, which is, how do I figure out the tools? Where does this tool go? What do I write here? How do I link these together? Instead, if you start at the top and understand what the funnel is for and why you're taking the time to build one, all the pieces start to come together a little bit easier. So you're taking strangers, you're turning them into prospects, you're taking your prospects who have now been introduced to your company, and you're making them a lead by showing what you can do, how you can solve their problems, and then you're turning them into a customer. Now the squiggly arrow is there because I want to make it clear that this flow, while it sounds neat and generally is how we're going to organize the structure of a funnel, is really kind of a squiggly line. People can pop in, pop out, jump in at different places, go to a certain point in the funnel, leave, and 6 months later come back and buy. So funnels are a lot different because of the internet than they were 20 years ago with traditional marketing that you saw with big businesses, billboards, television, radio, etc. It's very different now, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So this is how marketing was viewed for about 150 years. You develop awareness, then you create an interest, you stir up a desire that gets people to take action, and that action is purchasing. And you see the funnel shape, right? A lot of people are aware, a few less are going to have interest, a few less than that will have desire, and a few less than that will take action. And so the concept for the longest time was to fill as many people as you could into the top of the funnel, because a certain percentage would make it to the next level, a certain percentage would make it to the next level. And so let's say by the time you get to action, 5% of the people in the funnel are actually going to buy from you. If you put 100 people in your funnel, you make 5 sales. If you put 1,000 people in your funnel, you make 50 sales. So you can see where this concept led to the bombarding of messaging, billboards, ads at sports stadiums, magazines where you have ad after ad after ad, television ads where they run the same ad multiple times during a show and you think it's a mistake, but it's really making you aware. It's building that brand. And that was forever the concept, blaring at you. Now things are a little bit different because of the internet and how people buy. So this model is called the Customer Decision Journey. McKinsey Consulting put it together. And it shows the flow of people as they go to buy. Actually starts with they have an idea that they want to buy something and they know a few companies. Then they go out and research, and that 2, 3, 4, 5 companies becomes maybe 20 companies. And then as they move to the right in active evaluation towards a purchase, they start paring it down again, funnel-like, until they pick a company and they buy. But then it continues, and a real focus now goes to what's your experience after you buy. And the reason for this is the cheapest customers that you'll ever get are your current customers. They're the easiest people economically to sell to because they're already a customer. You can already reach out to them. If you've done a good job, they're likely to buy from you again. So you really focus on that purchase experience, and then the loop back in the center is when they've become happy enough and they've bought a couple of things from you and had a good experience, they're going to start sharing that. They'll share it with their friends. 80% of people will go to a friend and take their advice, or at least consider it strongly when making a purchase. And that applies in person, and it applies in social media, etc. So that loyalty loop and the after-purchase experience become very important. So we've talked a little bit about funnel evolution. We'll talk about a few more things. So the awareness, interest, desire, action, it was based on touches, right? That's how many times someone will see your ad, your brand, about that specific product, and it had to be congruent, right? You couldn't show a sumo wrestler using your product and then show a pygmy using your product and expect people to make that relationship between your product and themselves. That wouldn't work. It has to be congruent. The messaging has to be the same. Originally, when this model was in effect for that, like I said, 150 or so years, it was thought that 8 to 12 touches were needed before someone was in a position to consider buying from you. With the internet, you can't even find a reliable number anymore, but it's somewhere over 50 is the lowest amount of touches I've seen mentioned in this same sort of model. This model was outbound. You're pushing messages at people. You're interrupting them. They're driving down the road. They can't avoid seeing it. You put it in between parts of their television show and a commercial. You put it on the radio in between songs. People can't get away from it. The blasted messages, billboards. In the internet, if you remember when it was just getting started, those flashing banner ads that used to come in and pop-ups, that was people porting this model to the internet, thinking it would work the same way. Thank goodness it hasn't. So the new model is now based on interaction. Right? I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm providing you information, useful advice, tools, etc. It's inbound and outbound. I say that because you still have things like Facebook ads, for instance, but now they're much more tailored. And if to see what I mean, go to Amazon, look at a product, click on it, etc., search for it. Now, go back to Google and start poking around. Go to Facebook and start poking around. Pay attention to the ads that show up. There's a good chance you're going to see what you just looked at popping up in your ad. So you're really getting customized and tailored ads aimed at you. And you also have inbound. You sign up to an email list to get a newsletter, to get a free download of something. And now you've given permission for people to reach out to you and continue giving you value. And you're also going to see pitches come in that. It's permission-based, and that's what that email list is. You're signing up saying, it's okay to email me because you're giving me this and I agree to it. And that's where the giveaways come from. And now the list is huge. It's very important. You've always heard probably the money is in the list when people talk about lists. And eons ago through today, you hear that generally speaking, your list is worth about $1 per person per month. So if you have 1,000 people on your list, you should be making around $1,000 a month from your list by sending them offers. Maybe they're affiliate offers, maybe they're sales for you. Maybe you run something every couple of months, but it makes up that average. So the key here is to make a list, to build your list. And not just a random list. Again, this is very targeted now. It's not just blasting out there. You bring in people to your list that need the solution that you're selling. And the other thing about this model and the evolution of marketing is there's options, and those options are recognized very easily. You can Google something, and if you Google, I need tires, then you'll see all the different brands come up. You'll see stores, you'll see paid ads, etc., and you'll see all the different options. Before, to get something like that, you might have had to go to the yellow pages, and there you only have, an opportunity once a year to get in there. With the internet, you could go and do that search a week from now and find new options. So that's very important that you recognize in your marketing that the folks that you're trying to sell to are going to have a lot of options out there, and those options are going to be pushing into their consciousness. People are going to try and make them aware of it just like you are. So let's walk through that flow that we talked about, from strangers to a prospect to a lead to customers, and talk about the different stages. Right? So when I say strangers, that just means someone who doesn't know about your company. They don't know about your products. They don't know about your services. So the first thing we need to do is let them know you're there. And not just I exist, but rather, here, this is what we do. Here's the problems we solve. Here's some tips for you. And we need traffic to come to our sites so that we move from stranger to prospect. Prospect is just someone who knows you're there. They're probably someone who has, either now, in the past, or in the future, the problem that you solve, and therefore they see that you're relevant to them in some way, shape, or form. And they're going to become a prospect, meaning that when they're ready to buy, either because you triggered that in them or they had that realization, you're probably in the mix. So we need this traffic, and where does it come from? Well, social media, search engines, paid ads, webinars. These are just a few, but they're the big ones. Let me walk through those. Social media, you hear social media marketing a lot. And I separate paid ads on social media from social media where you're just posting. Incredibly labor intensive. And when you try and do it, what you'll notice is a good chunk of what you're seeing are other people trying to do the same thing. So there's a lot of noise out there, and it's going to be really hard for people to hear your voice if that's how you're approaching it. Search engines. So you've probably heard of search engine optimization. That's making sure that your sites, your landing pages, etc., are optimized to be found when someone goes to Google and does a search. Someone goes to Bing and does a search. Your site shows up in that list. It used to be a very good way of getting traffic. These search engines have gotten much better at making sure that they deliver the best answer to your search question possible. It used to be easy to trick them, and that's why you would see all sorts of garbage show up in your search results. But Google, for instance, gets paid mostly by ads. So they need to make sure that when you do a search, that the right ads come up and that the right search results below it come up. Otherwise, a new search engine is going to come along and unseat them. So it's in their best interest to have good search results, real search results come up. And they've done a really good job at cutting down on all the people who tried to trick them and work their algorithms into their advantage. So the best you can do with search engine optimization is make sure that you're aware of who your ideal clients are, who your market is, what you provide, and make sure your language on your site reflects it. Make sure you're publishing regularly. Make sure all the little back-end stuff is in place. You've got tags and metadata and so on, so that it's easier for the search engine to find you. I'll do webinars next. So like this is a webinar. Generally, webinars provide value. They teach. You learn something. And you can find webinars on any subject under the sun. You can find them on YouTube. And you see them a lot to sign up on for a different list. People are adding you to your list because you've said, hey, I want to sit through this and learn from you. And then it'd be great, to get more information. And if I'm not interested, I'll unsubscribe. Now, the big one I'll talk to is paid ads. Most people avoid this like the plague. They think, I don't want to run paid ads. It might cost me, $3.50 to have someone click. Or, it might cost me $1 to have someone click on my site, and then only, 30% of the people are going to sign up when they get to my landing page, and it's so expensive. And this is where it's important to be able to do your math, right? If you're selling a $100 product, how much does it cost you to get a customer? If you can run 10 paid ads, and let's say that's the $3.50 example, now you've spent $35 to get 10 people to click. And let's say of those 10 people, 4 will sign up for your list and one of those will buy. So now you spent $35, you got 10 people on your list, one of whom buys for $100, you just made $70. But people only look at that $35 piece and they think, I'm spending that money. I'll take those numbers all day long. If you could consistently do that, you'd be rich in a heartbeat. Paid ads are now the best way to get in front of the right people at the right times, the right sites, bring them back to your sites, get them on your list, run them through sales funnels. Everything else that's free, everyone knows it, and everyone's trying different techniques. And when you go out and try and compete in that free world, you're like the goldfish in the pond, scrambling for that food. They all look the same. They're all fighting for the same thing in the same place. There's nothing special about you. Paid ads go right to the people you want, and generally Google and Facebook are the best places to go. I love Facebook because you can get so targeted. Excuse me. And the nice thing about these ads are that you can target them so specifically, and the companies that are selling the ads, Facebook or Google, the ones I mentioned, are tracking the ads to make sure they're not garbage, so they don't get ignored as consistently as they may have in the past. Excuse me, I'm going to have a quick drink. Okay, so I'll get off my soapbox about ads, but if you want to grow your business, if you want to sell a lot, paid ads are going to make it happen for you overnight. Everything else is going to be a long haul. Now, we need that traffic to go somewhere. So where are we trying to send that traffic? To our sites, to things that we control. Oh boy, excuse me. To our blog, our website, to landing pages, right? Landing pages is a page that you go to that makes you an offer, and in exchange for your email, you get something. We could send them right to a sales page, although that's less acceptable now in paid ads. They don't want you to send people right to sales pages anymore. Send them to your website. Send them to fan pages on Facebook. It all depends what you want them to do. So you make sure your ad is set up to run those folks through that ad to a place that works for you and it works for them. All right, so let's move on. When we want to turn a prospect into a lead, we have to provide value or the prospect of value, right? So it's something they need right now or something they anticipate or might potentially need in the future. And so we need to engage, we need to understand, we need to communicate. And what do I mean by that? We need to engage with them one-on-one. No one wants to receive spam that looks like it's the same thing that was sent to 10,000 other people. They want it to be personalized, to have a little bit of information about them, their situation, their challenge. And that's why the paid traffic from ads is great, because those are the people that are clicking on it, right? You've already established that link. We need to understand them. I talk a lot about this in pricing. To me, pricing is that one element that pulls everything in your business together. If you do pricing correctly and have a process, and you can see some of my other videos on that if you're interested. I'll show you where at the end. But we have to understand, what do they want to pay? What are their problems? What solutions do they need and respond to? When do they need that solution? And then we need to communicate. And that's where the email list is so perfect, because it can do all of these things if we set it up right. And it can do it with automation, meaning we can custom email and customize messages for thousands of people at the same time with automation. Webinars are great. I like doing webinars because I like to teach. So they're fun for me to do, And I like going to them because it's really interesting for me to learn how other people do webinars. You see a lot of people who are just over the top animated and talking loud, and it's kind of fun to pick through the techniques of, okay, this is what they learn, this is what they're trying to do, from an influence or a neurolinguistic programming perspective. So I enjoy that. And plus I enjoy the content, the learning. I typically learn, at least one thing on every webinar. So that I think they're great both as a tool to use in my business, and I enjoy going to them. And the other thing is we want to build our brand awareness, right? Because they might not buy from us right now, but when they get ready to solve whatever problem they have that they're going to buy something to solve, then I want to be in that list of candidates, right? I want to be on their mind at the beginning. When they expand out and they're starting to compare things, I want to compare favorably, and I want to be there at the end when they decide to purchase if it's right. All right, so to make a lead into a customer, we need to solve a problem at the right time, right? So we need to understand our offering. So we have a product, we have a service, we're trying to sell it. What does it do for the customer? That's what we need to understand, not all the shiny bells and whistles we might use to describe it, but the outcomes it provides, right? If you look at some of the psychology and sales studies, people don't buy Ferraris because they're, they corner well, or they're a sports car, or they're a top-of-the-line almost race car. They buy Ferraris so their friends know that they've made it. So when they drive down Main Street, people that see them go, oh, there's somebody that's made it, right? So that's what you need to understand to sell that product. And we need to understand that about our products, our services. Then who are our clients? So we want to provide the most value possible when we sell something, right? Just from, a principle standpoint. So we need to sell it to the right people. And who are those people, right? I can't sell to the right people until I know who they are. Once I know who they are, then I can target ads to them. I can target ads to them at the right time. And then the environment. Who else is out there selling solutions similar to what I'm selling? What are their prices? What components do they include in this? What kind of guarantees do they have? We want to know all of that stuff because that's who we're competing against, and we want to be able to position ourselves so we can say, my product does this for you, and then I want to be able to know why it's better than someone else so I can share that information with you. All right, so I'm going to move on now and talk about some tools. This always seems to be a question that comes up. People are like, what tool should I use? Should I get this tool, that tool? There's tools coming onto the marketplace all the time, and people want the latest and greatest shiny thing. And here's where tools have gone. When the internet marketing started, everything was kind of separate, and you had to cobble together stuff, a lot of times with code. Then there was a movement as time went on to consolidate and have all-in-one marketing providers. So you have Marketo, HubSpot, big companies like that try and cobble together monster products so that you have one product and you can do everything with it. The challenge with those is, obviously, if you have one product and it's doing everything, you're probably not going to have the best option across the board. Might not be the best email system, the best landing pages, the best blog, the best social media, but you're stuck with it because it's part of a whole solution. The other challenge with those, especially for a small business, is they're very expensive. HubSpot, I'd have to check their current pricing, but a couple of years ago, you had to pay something like $20,000 a year, and it had the mandatory service fee for training at the beginning. And that's kind of a hefty prospect to leap into a funnel, just right off the bat, especially if you're smaller. And it required someone that was fairly knowledgeable to run. Where we're seeing things go now is an evolution back towards one-of tools. A tool that just does landing pages, a tool that's a cart, a tool that just does email. But now what those tools do are, those small tools are better, 5-10 times better than the tools that are in those big all-in-one packages. And now, because of the advancement in code and the internet and the stability of things, they talk to each other well. So now I can customize things, put them all together, and it works seamlessly. And that is a brilliant development for us as small business marketers. So I'm going to share a list of tools with you. These are the tools I use right now. You can do the same thing with other tools. There's other options out there. I've used many of the other options and settled on these. So I'll answer questions about them at the end if you have specific tool questions. I don't sell any of these tools. I don't have affiliate relationships with any of these. They're just the ones I use because it's important to me to use things that work. So, Ad Espresso. It's a service. I think you can start fairly inexpensively. I forget what the beginning package is. But it's a tool that will run effectively as a liaison for your Facebook ad campaigns. One of the things you want to do when you run Facebook ads is test. And for about $50, you can run enough variations of an ad to figure out which one works. So instead of spending, 3, 4, 5 days agonizing over a sentence and what picture to put, you can put 5, 6 different pictures in. You can put a bunch of different headlines in. You can put a bunch of different calls to action in, and it will put all the combinations together, run it through, test them, and then pop out and tell you this is the one that works. So you use Ad Espresso, you save tons of money, you save tons of time, and you get to the exact crowd you need to get to with your message. Okay, WordPress. The only sites that I'll use for myself, and the only ones I'll touch if someone wants me to work with them, is WordPress. It's very flexible. You can run so many different things on it. The only bad thing about WordPress is when you host it on a garbage host. And I'm not going to name names, but there's plenty of them out there that you've heard of. I host mine on a dedicated WordPress company. All that company does with their hosting is host WordPress sites. They've got security, they've got backup, and I don't need to worry about it. And it's, frankly, it's not very expensive at all. But WordPress is fantastic. Lead pages. I use lead pages to create all my landing pages. I use them for sales funnels, to do videos. Tons of different stuff that you can do with lead pages, and it just is a brilliant product. I joined them when they first came out, and they've grown to be, I think, the second fastest growing company in Minnesota and some of the top 400 or 500 in the country. They make a brilliant product. If you need landing pages, you can get other options. There's none better. So continuing on, WordPress, again, I'll mention it, not just for sites, but for a blog. And a blog is where you're writing articles, sharing knowledge. You're probably all familiar with blogs. WordPress is easy. It's built in. It was built around blogs. I use lead pages. Again, I forgot to preface this. I'm now talking about to make a prospect a lead. I use lead pages to create the landing pages I mentioned. These are the pages that I'm going to send traffic to, those prospects. I'll have links to them on my blog, so someone might already know me and say, oh, that sounds interesting. I'd like that offer. Click on it. And now they're a lead. They're on my list. Drip. Drip is my email autoresponder. So it is, when people sign up for my list, Drip is the tool that I'm using. I've used Aweber, Constant Contact, SurveyMonkey, a couple others. Drip is not all that old, a couple of years old. They were just acquired by Lead Pages, and it is a fantastic tool. Back when I was doing my MBA degree at Duke, which is known for marketing, in the CRM class that we had, there was an awful lot on segmenting and doing different things with your audiences and learning about them. And Drip is the first tool that I've seen in this marketplace that doesn't cost, $500 and up a month, that allows you to segment and automate your list and your responses in a way that I've never seen before. So if someone's going through a sequence of emails, let's say, that I'm sending them, and I maybe have 5 lined up, and after the third one they go and buy a product from me, it doesn't even have to be through the email. Drip is going to track everything. It will automatically say, oh, I'm not going to send them any more of this because that's a sales-oriented thing. I'm going to move them over to this messaging sequence that helps them get the best value out of what they bought. So let's say they buy a course from me, I might send them a couple emails immediately thereafter that says, hey, here's how to go through this course. Here's some gotchas that people have run into before where they stumbled. So it makes it very personable. You can set it up, run it once, and it is absolutely brilliant. All right, to get a lead to become a customer, you need to be able to take money. Stripe is the easiest way to accept credit cards. They take a couple percent. There's a small fee. It's the best way. You can go to your bank, you can go to AuthorizeNet, you can go to different services to accept credit cards, and have fun with that, because you're going to go through a monstrous application process. They're going to hold your money in sometimes up to 5-6 months because they're worried about returns. And it's a hideous process. Stripe makes it easy. You can sign up in 10 minutes. Absolutely fantastic. Because they're so good, everything out there links to them and talks to Stripe. So remember when I said that you can link things together, Stripe, is right in there. Lead pages. I'll create sales pages and lead pages sometimes, depending on what that funnel looks like, or if I want someone to have the option to buy right away and not necessarily wait. And then I use ThriveCart to create my shopping cart. There's a number of good cart options out there. SamCart comes to mind too. ThriveCart to me does everything I need, and it was a little bit less expensive, so I like that. All right, now I'm going to give this a list of some other tools that I use and what I use them for. Lead Pages created a new tool called Center, and what Center does is it is a one-stop shopping. It interfaces with tons of different tools, and you can set up automation within this. You can say, well, if someone buys from this, then I want to send them to this webinar. If someone goes to my webinar but leaves after 10 minutes, I want to send them a note about the replay or talk about something that's related to it. It lets you do a lot of powerful things with automation. I said I like webinars. Webinar Jam is what I use. EverWebinar is how I do a webinar, and then I'll post it and let it run for a while, so that I don't have to give webinars constantly. Although I like them, I run out of time. Summit Evergreen is where I host online courses. I like it. That's all they do. It's put together by people who wanted to solve the problem of hosting their courses and their clients' courses. So it doesn't have a bunch of baloney in it. It lets you drip feed things, maybe one module a week. It lets you set up message boards so your students can interact, etc. And you can set up membership sites too. And it's hosted on their servers, so you don't need to worry about traffic and speed and things on yours. 3x VSL by John Benson. Not so much a tool as it is an app that you can log into, but it helps you build your video sales letters. John probably does the best video sales letters around. He's made a study of them for a decade, and they're great. Easy Video Suite. These guys also make the cart that I use, ThriveCart. Some guys, I believe, from New Zealand, but it's a brilliant tool for video. They make it so easy. I use it for all my videos. And then SumoMe. Noah Kagan, who was at Facebook in the early days. I think he went to mint.com. He does AppSumo, which is dangerous because it's like crack on the internet. There's always such incredible sales and deals on there, but he also has a product called SumoMe, which is for your WordPress site, and it's for building your list. So it does things that other list builders don't. It has forms. They do a lot of studying about what works best. It lets you A/B test, which is important. You can set up a number of different variations, and it will automatically switch them to see which one works best, and then funnel all your traffic to that. It's a brilliant tool, not expensive at all. All right, so we talked about tools and purposes and stuff. So here's what a funnel looks like. Turns out this graphic might be just a hair blurry, unfortunately. So left to right, and the traffic, I put the tools in there. I use Facebook ads, Ad Espresso. I'll create traffic through my WordPress blog, through social media. And then that traffic I'll send to different places, right? And that's why I have a funnel on the top and a bottom. It's just representing different funnels. Some traffic might go here. I might send others here. And then you see the Lead Pages logo, the blue and white stacked. I guess they're squares bent. Anyway, so that traffic will then go to a landing page, and I'll A/B test them. And I'll actually ABC test to go even quicker if I can drive enough traffic. And so they'll run to one of those, and as soon as one of them shows up as statistically significantly better than another, and the tools will do that for you, so you don't need to worry about statistics, then those signups go to my email list, Drip. And from Drip, they'll get put into an email sequence. You see it might be 3 emails, and then the 4th one might be an offer. So you see the cart. People go to the offer. If they are buying the offer, they'll go to Stripe to pay, and then they become the customer we see at the end. And so that is generally how the funnels will be set up. So there's each step along the way can be customized. You need to know, like I mentioned earlier, what your product, everything about it from your customer's viewpoint. You need to know your market really well. You need to know your competition. And then you can build this. And the other area that I haven't talked much about is the email sequence. It's critically important because essentially that's your communication, right? And a lot of people will just put garbage in their emails. But there's a lot that you can do with it. And what you do in those emails really makes a difference into your revenue. How much people will buy from you is really influenced by that. But that's a subject for another webinar, another article, another day. So I'll open it up to questions and answers. John, do you have a list of those questions? So people have been asking questions as we go. And here I have a list of 3 or 4 of them. And if you have questions, just enter them in, and we'll see if we can get to them. Before I go on, I did want to let you know that that's my website, thecogentcoach.com. If you go there, you will find all sorts of articles. I mentioned pricing. You go there, and some of my latest articles are on pricing. So you can pull those up. There's some videos in there. If you want to download any of the information, there's some sign-up forms. Poke around, enjoy yourself. There's contact forms. Shoot me a note. Tell me what you want to learn more about or what you would like to see. So here's the first question. Do I need to use those tools? Nope, not at all. I think almost every one of the tools that I showed, maybe not Center, but almost every other tool has a number of competitors. I mentioned several for carts. I mentioned autoresponders for landing pages. People like ClickFunnels. For courses, holy cow, you got Rizuku, Kajabi, all sorts of WordPress plugins. There's a lot of different tools. You can do a lot of the same stuff with different tools. The tools that I'm using, they're all paid, either subscription or a one-time purchase. And there are, for a lot of these tools, free options. Although what you're seeing now, like Summit Evergreen, like Drip, if you have very few people signed up, you can pay, I think Drip starts at $1 a month until you get to a certain level. And once you get to that level, you're probably profitable and can pay for the next level. So there's some tools out there that will really let you start as a beginner or free. And what I recommend is if you're serious and you're actually going to go into business and make it work, then go with the tools that are better right from the get-go. I mean, if you start with an autoresponder and you build a list of 1,000 people, that list is going to make you less money than if you were using a really great tool to maximize the value of your list. So it's actually costing you money to use that lesser expensive tool. And then when you want to move your subscribers, it's a challenge because you have CAN spam laws. So companies are very wary about letting you just port a list in. They're going to want to know a little bit about it. Where did it come from? How did the people sign up? So it can be a real nuisance to switch. So you don't have to use the tools I showed, obviously. They're the ones I use. I've tested tons. But use a good tool. Don't use garbage to start with, thinking you're getting a good deal. All right. Do you have another question? Okay, here we go. What should go in the emails? Well, again, I kind of touched on that a little bit, that it's your communication with, either people that have purchased from you, so customers already, where you're helping them through getting value from your products, showing them more products, sharing value, or their leads, people who have signed up to your email list but haven't purchased from you yet, in which case you might be sending them some email about different things that would help them. Generally, you want to send 4 emails that offer some value, some tips, some great content for every one email that you send that is focused on selling. Any more than that, and you start to become very spammy in the eyes of your leads. They're thinking, all you care about is selling them something. But if you go 4 to 1, that's a ratio that's been around for a while. It hasn't changed. It seems to work really well. Give a lot of value, and then your 5th one, send out something to sell. People always ask me about, aren't you're ruining your sales by giving all this information away in your email sequence? And my thought is, if you can give away your product in 4 emails, then it's probably not worth buying anyway. But you can give away individual tips. And the way it works psychologically is, people look at it and say, well, if I'm getting all this value and I've got things that I can put to use and are practical and I learned something, then if I buy the full product, then I'm going to accelerate that value. I'm going to get more. And so that's the way that trigger works in the mind. You're not actually hurting your sales. You're actually increasing them by giving stuff away. The next question we have here is how do I put it all together? And that's, think about it in the flow that we went through, right? You want to take the strangers and you want them to come to your site and be a prospect, someone that knows about you. You want your prospects to sign up to your list and become a lead that you can communicate with, and then you want those people to buy. So if you think about it like that, you need a number of tools along the way that facilitate that. So look at each of those different areas and get a tool that does that particular thing. And some tools overlap, like lead pages you can use in a couple different places. Figure out what tools you need, and you can use the ones I use that I showed you, or if you look at those tools that I use, just Google, if you want to know what autoresponders are out there, just, Google autoresponder or Google drip competitor or any tool competitor, and you'll get a list, and people will sing the praises of different tools. Just be careful that, some of those people are actually getting paid to sell those tools as affiliates, so they might not have a fair opinion of it. But, so you get those tools and start linking them together. And when you have one tool, then make sure the next one you add works with that tool, and so on. Where I would start, if you don't have something that you're selling right now that's already working, start with building your list. So get a great autoresponder. Then get a tool that lets you sign people up, your landing pages, and go from there and build out that way. How do I know if a funnel is working well? Well, if the cash register is ringing, but seriously, I'm a big metrics person. I mentioned before, I'm a strategy consultant, and part of that is on process improvement and statistical analysis. So I like numbers. I like to look at what I'm doing and measure the results and make sure I know where those results came from so that I can keep improving them. Right? If I spend $5 on marketing, I want to make sure I make $5 back at a minimum, and I want to know what I can change to make that constantly better. So how I know if a funnel's working is if I'm selling, if my rates are good, how many people are signing up to my landing page? Is it 20%? Is it 70%? How many people click my ads? All that information is available for you. You just have to pay attention to it and track it over time. So I think that will be the last question we take. Thanks very much for being with me. I appreciate you spending this time. And again, look at my site, thecogentcoach.com, and I look forward to interacting with you in the future.